I think just about everyone has waved back at someone who wasn't actually waving at them. Most people recover quickly. I did not. What happened to me lasted minutes and by the end involved a small audience. It was a Saturday afternoon at an outdoor shopping plaza, the kind of place with fountains, street musicians, and one bench that everyone fights over. I had just bought a coffee the size of a small aquarium and was walking towards the parking lot when I saw a guy across the plaza, enthusiastically waving in my direction. Big smile, arms swinging, full commitment. You know that, hey, there you are, wave. So naturally, I waved back because I'm not a monster. But as I waved, something felt off because he kept waving. This wasn't the polite, quick wave people do when they recognize someone. This was a sustained greeting, like he hadn't seen me in 20 years. I squinted. How did I know this guy? He looked vaguely familiar in the way that practically anyone can look vaguely familiar when you're searching your mind for where you know them from. Scared you won't recognize them when they clearly recognize you. Maybe college? Maybe a former coworker? Maybe a cousin you hadn't seen since you were 7? But he was still waving, so I waved again. I too committed to the wave. Big mistake. The guy was walking towards me, and I was walking towards him, so I couldn't understand why we were both still waving. Eventually he stopped, as did I, but by then we were closing the distance between us pretty quickly, and after about 10 more seconds, I realized something terrifying. The man was not looking directly at me. His eyes were slightly above my head, which meant one of two things. One, he had terrible depth perception, or two, he was waving at someone behind me. I casually glanced over my shoulder. There was a woman pushing a stroller about 20 feet behind me, smiling at someone in the distance. Smiling, I was pretty sure, back at him. My soul left my body. Here's the problem with realizing you were waving at the wrong person. You have two options. Option A, immediately stop waving. Just accept you looked like an idiot. Just hope no one noticed or pretend something else was happening. You know, you were just greeting that friend who is still in front of you in the distance. Smile and head towards that imaginary friend with determination. Unfortunately, my brain chose option B, panic and improvise badly. Instead of stopping the wave, I transitioned it into a stretch. You know, I was never waving. I'm just loosening my shoulder joint like a totally normal person. But it was far too late. The guy had already seen me, and besides, that looked just as odd. And now he just looked confused, which meant the woman behind me, who was just now arriving on scene, also looked confused. Now that we were all in close proximity, the guy asked, "Do I know you?" It's hard to answer that question when you know the other person is thinking, because I hope not. I panicked. Maybe, I said. He squinted for a bit and answered, "No, I don't think so." By this point, I was certain that a few of the people who were pausing nearby were just there to watch and listen, because humans love awkwardness the way cats love knocking things off tables. The woman said, "I was looking for you everywhere." And he replied, "Yeah, you didn't see me for a while. I was waiting for a long time." I cringed as they both glanced at me. "But I guess you thought he was waving at you," she went on, amused. My face was flushing. I could feel the heat. "Yeah, I did," I admitted. We all stood there in silence a moment, and then the stroller lady burst out laughing, which triggered the guy. "I was waving for like 2 solid minutes," he laughed. "I know. I kept waving at you, wondering why you were still waving." And a few people around us started laughing too, thus proving they were eavesdropping. Now, normally when something embarrassing happens in public, you just leave. But the guy and the woman were directly in my path, standing between me and the parking lot. So, trying to lessen the excruciating awkwardness, I gave them a nod and turned to the side, pretending to head for some store to the right of me. At that point, just desperate to get away. But about 10 seconds later, I heard the guy yell, "Hey!" I stopped and turned around. He was walking toward me, and by the time he reached me, he was laughing again. "Dude," he said, "I just want to say that was the funniest thing I've seen all week." I relaxed just a little. "Yeah," I agreed. "I really committed to that wave." "You really did." Then he stuck out his hand. "I'm Ben." I shook his hand. "I'm Rick." He nodded. "Well, Rick, if it makes you feel better, I've done the same thing." "Really?" "Yeah," he nodded. "Mine lasted an entire escalator ride." As we talked, the stroller lady walked up smiling. "Hey," she said, "since you two clearly know each other now," she gestured toward a small cafe nearby, "do you want to grab coffee?" Ben laughed. "You know what? Sure." He looked at me. "You coming?" I hesitated. I was still recovering from a catastrophic social mistake. But somehow it had turned into a conversation with two very friendly strangers, so I shrugged. Yeah, why not? We sat at that cafe for almost an hour, talking mostly about embarrassing public moments, and also, of course, about ourselves. Ben turned out to be an automotive engineer, and the mom, whose name was Dana, was a teacher. Dana had a birthday party coming up in a week, so they invited me to come, which meant we exchanged cell numbers and they gave me their address. I went to that party, and then they came to mine, and we've been good friends for a few years now. And that's how I learned that embarrassing moments can also be moments you can connect over and maybe even make friends. If you enjoyed this reading, please hit like and subscribe so you don't miss future stories. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. This has been Tales by Rachel, where we breathe life into every story.